What is a memory? Why do we capture them? And more importantly, what impact are we hoping that our memories will have on us and our kids in the future? Hi, I'm Tim. I'm the founder here at the Memory Makers Academy, and I help parents curate a legacy so that they can raise confident, resilient, unstoppable adults of the future. In today's video, we're looking at what is a memory, why do we capture them, and what impact are we hoping that they will have on our kids in the future. And if you stick around and watch this video, we're going to transform the way in which you think about memories so that you can start building a set of memories with intention, which actually makes it a lot easier for you to work out what things you need to capture and how to use them for more impact for your kids later on in life. The first question is, what is a memory in the first place? We tend to think of memories almost like a photograph in our minds of a particular event. It's like our brain's just taken a snapshot, there it is, almost emotionless, static, that's how it is. But memories are far more dynamic. They change, they adapt, we interpret them and reinterpret them over and over again. As an example, I grew up watching a program called Jim Will Fix It, and many of you will be familiar with this program and the story behind it. Essentially, the premise was that kids would write into the show and with their dreams and things that they wanted to accomplish, whether that be eating food on a roller coaster or going on a trip on a safari or something like that, and Jim would make that dream come true. And it was a brilliant program. Like these kids, you see them, they were happy, they were doing things that they didn't think were going to be possible. And it wasn't until later on, when we found out the story of how Jimmy Savile was actually a paedophile, that all of a sudden, my entire memory of that particular event gets reinterpreted in the light of that new information. Now I'm constantly questioning what were the motives behind why he was doing the things that he was doing. And I can no longer watch that program with those same innocent eyes that I had before. My interpretation of it, my memory, my imagination, I've reimagined that program in the light of that new information. Now that might be an extreme example, but no memory that we have is without interpretation. In effect, every memory we have is a reinterpretation and a reimagination of a particular event. So as parents, why are we taking photographs? Why are we taking videos in the first place? What are we trying to capture? What are we trying to curate? We don't tend to capture all the times where they're falling off their bike and they're sad and they're upset because we want them to remember the positive stuff. Why is that? Well, I mean, for me, I really want my kids to look back and have a positive experience of childhood. In a selfish way, there's perhaps an element of me wanting them to think, yes, they had an awesome dad and an awesome mum and an awesome upbringing. But if we stop there, then we're missing out on a huge potential for what these memories can actually do for our children when they're looking back at these things later on. If you look at what makes us human, so much of our identity is about the experiences that we've had, the words that have been spoken to us, by society around us, and those things help form an identity as to and who we are and how we see ourselves. And often as parents, our aim is to just give them as many positive experiences as they can in the hope that they will remember things positively, that they'll have a great sense of identity, of adventure, and all those things. But often we're leaving those memories to chance. What do I mean by that? Well, there's only so much information that our brains can store at any given moment. We don't remember everything that happens. We remember things based on their significance in a particular moment. I've got about 60,000 photos on my phone at the minute, and my daughter is only 4 years old. Now, when she gets to 20, Lord only knows how many photos I will have taken by that stage in her life. And it is far too many photos for me to go through at any particular time and tell her what was going on in each thing, what we were feeling, what we were doing as a family. And so it ends up being almost like there's just too much. And so whilst, yes, when I'm looking back at them, they'll spark memories, it's impossible to build a narrative that goes through because I've not done it with intention. So when my kids are 18, 19, 20, and they're looking back at the memories that we've got there, I have no idea where they're going to dive in, what they're going to see, what they're going to experience, what their interpretation is going to be of each of the photos and the videos that they see. There's no curation, and we'll never have the time to really tell the story about each individual thing. So there's no emotion attached to each individual photo. Now, as a contrast, when I was a kid and parents were taking photos on film, you'd only have 24 or 36 film photographs in a reel. And so there'd be much less to actually talk through. And so there was a tradition of making your photo album, and then you would go through it as a family, and you'd talk about what was going on in each scene. Where were you? What were you doing? Now, I'm a big fan of digital, and I think actually the way in which we've got it now is far better, because there are so many things that my parents will have missed because they didn't take their camera out. But we end up with a situation whereby we're just trying to capture too much, and so we're missing that element of the storytelling behind it. Now, in reality, there's a problem with both approaches, in that we are often not deliberate or being deliberate about what we're capturing and the impact that those things can have on our kids in the future. When my kids are 30 or 40, I actually don't particularly care if they can remember a particular event or trip that we took to the beach. What I want for them is for them to have a bank of memories that really talk about who they are, what their identity is. If I want them to be adventurous in the future, I want to show them being adventurous in the past, so that they can believe that they can do it again. When we start capturing memories with that intention, then all of a sudden you can transform the way in which you take photographs and videos and the way in which you use them to curate a set of memories that your kids can look back on in 20, 30, 40 years' time. What I want from my family is for them to be able to pick up their photo albums or their videos in the future and have the feelings of being adventurous, the feelings of being creative, of being curious, of being brave, or whatever feeling you want for your kids. And they get taken right back to that particular moment. They have that feeling attached to it, and that forms the basis of how they see themselves, how they reinterpret their past, so that they can remember those good times. So how do we begin to do that? Well, the trick is to be intentional about the memories which you are capturing and to actually do something with them. In the Memory Makers Academy, what we talk about, there are 4 processes in this. The first element is an element of reflection. And it's that question of what is it that you are all about? What are your values? What are your identities? Are there identities which actually you think you kind of need to shed a little bit so that you don't pass them on to your kids? And what do you want for your kids? How do you want them to think and feel about their childhood and their upbringing and the identity that they will have in the future? That second element is about intention. What moments can you capture or manufacture or create for your kids where they can demonstrate those values? So if you have 5 core things which you want your kids to remember: adventurous, brave, creative, compassionate, kind, what experiences can you capture that will demonstrate that particular value or identity? So that's the second stage. The third stage is the actual curation phase. So how do you capture this moment in a way which is going to tell the story, that's going to give you the context, going to give you the characters and the story of what was going on, so that it can be reinterpreted later on. And the fourth stage is an element of reimagination. It's about how you use those memories, how you talk about them, how you regularly reflect upon them, so that you can actually embed a feeling and an emotion to that particular photograph or film that you've created. So that in 10 years' time, when they look at that picture or that video, they're not just looking at that picture in isolation, they're looking at it and they're remembering the feeling that they had at that time, be that a feeling of adventure, be that a feeling of bravery, of whatever it is. Now, what does this mean for you as a parent? Well, it means that you can focus a little bit on the moments that matter. You can capture those moments, create a set of memories around a particular thing that you can then use throughout their life, as opposed to having to come up with a brand new activity every week for you to do as a family in the hope that those things will stick. Film something once and then reuse that memory. Get the kids to watch it back. Talk about what was going on. The other day when I was talking with my daughter, and I said to her, how would you like to remember your childhood? And I mean, she was 3 at the time, I think, when she said this. And she was like, I really want to remember myself climbing a big mountain with my blue hat on with the flowers on. Now, one of our things that we set out, me and my partner, was that we wanted our kid to be adventurous. And she's in that moment when we asked her, she was remembering a very particular film of her climbing at Brimham Rocks with her grandma. And even though she hadn't seen that film for a long time, it's become something that she's kind of anchoring a feeling towards. So the first step is to have a discussion about what feelings and what emotions, how do you want that childhood to be remembered? Do you want them to be brave, adventurous, creative, curious, resilient, all of those things, and make a decision? I'd pick 5 different things that you want initially. And these things can change over time. And they will certainly, as your kids get older, you will start to see personality traits coming out that you might want to really focus on and bring out. Then think about what activities you can capture where they're demonstrating those values. Be deliberate, be intentional about those. And when you see something where a moment is happening that they're really embodying that, capture it well. Next stage, finally, once you've captured it well, is to actually use it, to talk about it, to reflect upon it, and actually have a bit more open discussion about what was going on at that particular time, so that in 30 years' time, that feeling, that emotion is anchored to those memories. So if that helps you in any way, then leave a comment down below with your biggest takeaway. And of course, like, subscribe, follow, share this page, share this video, tag your friends in it, all those sorts of things. And I will see you in the next video.